So the question is, what in the world do we do when our kids don't either quote obey and or they don't do it what they agreed to do or are supposed to do? Somewhere along the line, this idea came in that in order, and everybody listen up, listen very, very carefully. You got to hear this. There's this old ineffective framework that says or thinks in order for my kids to be good, in order for my kids to obey, in order for them to turn into good people, in order for them to learn a lesson, I need to punish them, right? And it's almost like it's the default thinking. Like, oh, I'm a parent now. If my kid does something wrong, I need to punish that kid so that they learn the lesson. The problem is when you really dig into it, are punishments the most effective way to teach a child something? I want you to think about that for a minute. Chew on it. Is a punishment the most effective way to teach a lesson? Think about if the kids have absorbed it. Think about when you were a kid and you got punished. Did you go, thank you, parent, for punishing me? Like I'm absorbing that lesson. Or did you get resentful and say, ooh, that is not right? There was already a consequence. Why did you add the punishment on top? Right? For the vast majority of humans, punishment is less effective than consequence.
Well, I actually want to read this from I just started working on my bachelor's in psychology and I'm taking psychology 101. And I wanted to read this because I thought it was very insightful because it says punishment can be more powerful, especially in the short term, but it can have negative or unwanted results. For instance, if you're using punishment, you don't teach a person to be positive or to learn pro social kinds of behaviors. Generally, you're simply teaching them either to escape or avoid learning,
Boom! It's literally the opposite of the outcome we want.
which they use as ways to end the adverse stimulus. The adverse stimulus is the punishment you're inflicting on them. So they avoid the learning and comply simply to escape from the adverse stimulus, aka your punishment. Escape learning is learning to respond in a way that ends the adverse stimulus quickly by trying to get away from it. Avoidance learning is learning to respond in a way that postpones or prevents the adverse stimulus from happening, like lying or sneaking or going behind your back. Those are all things children start to do because they're trying to avoid the aversive stimulus.
Or the most common one we see all the time is the kid behaves one way when the parents are around. And as soon as the parents are gone, they are a completely different person.
Yep.
You literally raise a multiple personality child. They behave one way in front of you because they're just trying to avoid your punishments. Otherwise, they are often a little turd and they're doing terrible things right behind your back. And you like, I've seen it so many times working with youth. Like the parent steps around the corner and the kid's foul mouth, disgusting, ill behaved parent comes around. Whoop, boom, perfect little behaved child. And the parent gets completely fooled. They think their kid's amazing. I'm like, no, your kid is wearing a mask for you because they only are trying to avoid your punishments. They haven't internalized or learned the lesson.
Yeah. Okay, therefore, punishment isn't necessarily teaching somebody in the best way possible. There are a few other notable issues or problems with punishment. It tends to increase aggression in people and make them more likely to react violently towards others. Because punishment deals with aversive consequences or things a person doesn't like, people tend to react a lot stronger. Thus, the important thing regarding punishment is that it needs to be used in the best way possible if and when it is used.
So many strong reactions from our kids are because they're resisting punishment. I'm working with family right now. That's the case. Their two teen boys have like intense, like
Mhm.
crazy intense reaction. But what they're reacting to is not consequence. They're reacting to punishment. And it's so in a indirect way and inadvertently, the parents have created the insane reaction
Mhm.
by using punishments. Does that make sense?
Okay. And then basically it's saying that if you use punishment, because yes, there can be a time when punishment is appropriate. Although I think what we really want to dive into today is that there's a way we can focus on discipline and natural consequences that avoids the need to use punishment most of the time. But if and when we do punish, punishment needs to follow the behavior immediately and it needs to be appropriate to the response, right? So that it should not be, here's what happened and here's the punishment I get. And I think all of us know that. Like, we can't stand that when that happens to
Ugh,
us.
even
And
little
children
children.
cannot, right?
Well,
To be overly punished for something. It should not be disproportionately harsh
or irrelevant.
or irrelevant.
Parents get upset, and so here's the little crime that was committed, and they put this punishment in. You're like, That literally has nothing whatever. It is completely unrelated, but the parent's just upset, and so kind of subconsciously to spite, just to get the kid, they do that, and ouch,
Mhm.
kids are ouch.
Okay, so while punishment might work in the short term, it creates fear, shame, resentment, avoidance, learning. It damages the parent child relationship. And it also, this is, I think, one of the most important things, it creates poor internal regulation. Now, what that means is ultimately we want to help our children become the kind of people who can make good choices on their own. That's the ultimate goal. But if we constantly use punishment, we're actually damming, preventing that from happening. They cannot learn to internally process or regulate when external punishment is being forced onto them. Because essentially punishment is it's focusing on control, it imposes suffering or pain or consequence, right? Something that's not natural. It often, it's very often shame based and it's focusing on short term compliance rather than long term development of character. Does that make sense? Like, we should not be more concerned with our kids' short term compliance than we are with who they are actually becoming. And that's what discipline focuses on. It focuses on teaching them why they should do the thing you want them to do. It encourages growth, like so that they opt into choosing the things. And then it helps them build the skills and the responsibility to do that. And so it's really focused on long-term character development rather than that short-term compliance.
Stated in another way, ideally, we want our kids to want to do the right thing,
Right.
right? Are you with me on that? So we don't want them to do it just because we're asking for it or we say so or we're threatening them. Like, if you don't do this, there will be a punishment. So they do it. The ultimate dream is that our kids want to do what we want them.
Well, and more importantly, they want to do it because they understand why it's a good idea to do that thing. That's the bigger picture. It's not just about I want you to do what I want you to do. It's like, I want you to do these things because those are the things that human beings should do if they want to be happy and successful. Therefore, if you, child, also want to be happy and successful, here's why you should do these things. And then they say,
And the kid's like,
"Oh, yeah, that makes
I
sense."
I totally want to be happy and successful. I'm in.